Hello. Good morning. How are we? We're so good, Bear. Awesome. It is the 16th of May, 2025, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Have you guys seen this utter retardation being reported about James Comey, the former director of the FBI, calling for the assassination of President Trump? Can we even say that word on YouTube? I know we have a First Amendment right here in the United States of America, and we have an executive order protecting free speech in the United States of America, but we also have an executive order that is criminalizing anti-Semitism, which violates the other executive order against free speech, which violates the Constitution of the United States of America. The whole thing's stupid. From Russia Today. Let's get some propaganda from across the pond, shall we? Ex-FBI Director Comey under investigation for call to assassinate Trump. The U.S. president's critic has been accused of making a coded endorsement of violence. Coded endorsement of violence. The U.S. Secret Service is investigating former FBI Director James Comey. Stellar human being, right? Guy's just great. He's done such a good job for America, for you and me and everybody else, for making a threat against President Donald Trump. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, remember her? She of the Instagram photos that likes to flag people with short-barreled rifles that you're not allowed to have unless you will pay $200 to register, get a tax stamp, and then be on a registry and on, per the NFA, the National Firearms Act, which is a whole nother hullabaloo right now. So Kristi, who has really great hair and nails, but really terrible weapons handling capabilities, zero training there. She looks like basically upper Midwest Barbie doll. She can have an SBR, but you can't have one without paying for it. In spite of the Second Amendment, and you're not allowed to legally in the United States of America license a right, and a right is enumerated in what we call the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. You might have heard of that. She's got an SBR. So her Midwest Barbie doll, the Secretary of Homeland Security. Can I just be honest? I'm going to be honest. She looks like a secretary. She doesn't look like she should be leading anybody. She looks like a secretary. Oh, that's very sexist of you, Bear. Sorry, guys. I have testosterone and I have a lot of work experience, like a lot. And she was hired for the photo ops. She wasn't hired for competency. And Mr. Trump has a tendency to hire pretty ladies for the photo ops that then don't actually do anything, like Attorney General Pam Bondi. What are we, 90 days in now to Bear saying, hey, Bondi sucks. She should resign or be fired because she hasn't done her job. She's not going to do her job. She sucked as AG of Florida. And a whole bunch of y'all, the whole internet was like, Bear, you suck. You're so wrong. How could you say that? Trust the plan, give it time. And now all of a sudden, it's painful to be right early. And you know what? Now the whole internet's like, wow, Pam Bondi sucks. She's terrible. She's gone on Fox News 50 times. But we still don't have the Epstein files. The JFK files were heavily redacted for one word. Only one word was heavily redacted from the JFK files, Middle Eastern New Jersey. Remember the UFOs or whatever they were, the drones off the coast of New Jersey spraying nanobots and chemicals on people, and much less reported around military bases all over the country. We're supposed to get the truth of that. That was supposed to come out. And what do we get? We are aware of what they are. You don't need to worry about it. Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks so much. So Trump has a history of hiring pretty ladies that are useless. Speaking of pretty ladies that are useless, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has said, Comey, a longtime critic of Trump, has denied that his cryptic, now deleted Instagram post was a call for assassination. On Thursday, Comey posted an image of seashells that formed the number 8647. He captioned the image with "cool shell formation on my beach walk," end quote. So Comey, who's retarded and evil and probably a gay reptile. By the way, shout out to YouTube for putting a Wikipedia reptilian humanoid banner on our video from Wednesday about gay reptile overlords. That was fun. That was fun. Comey, who's part of the gay reptilian overlord upper echelon of the air quote world elites, one of the pieces of absolute trash that Messiah will body when Revelation 19 happens, took a picture of some, they say they're seashells. They look like rocks. There's seashells and rocks on a beach. And so it's just a background of sand. Picture this in your head. It's just some sand. And then there are rocks and seashells arranged in the numbers 8647. Now, Donald Trump Jr. retweeted this thing or reput whatever, this Internet 3.0 social media bullcrap. Donald Trump Jr. said, James Comey just casually called for my dad to be murdered. This is who the Dem media worships. Demented. 4 exclamation points. And it's rocks and seashells in the shape of 8647. Now, who's 47? Right, Bear, don't you understand? It's the satanic cabal. They have to tell you what they're going to do to you first before they do it. It's part of their doctrines. That's retarded. I've pushed back against that forever and a day because I used to know some of those people in a previous life before I gave my life to Messiah and before I was ordained as a pastor. They don't have to tell you that. You guys see like a single thing on the internet and you latch onto it as if it's like the absolute grassroots cornerstone truth. And then you take it and run with it as if 4 billion people circular reporting the same piece of bad information somehow makes it true. It's not true. In fact, a cornerstone of the dark arts is deception. They don't have to tell you anything. There's no requirement for that. So this whole symbology thing, they have to tell you first so that they can do it because then they're justified in their works for Lucifer. Retarded. Absolutely retarded. If you don't know what the word grimoire means, shut up on stuff like that. Because I do. I don't do those things anymore, but I did. And just a little aside for everybody out there who maybe played some stupid games back in the day. If you're on the fence about whether or not the redeeming, atoning blood of Messiah will work for you, the answer is yes. Because if I can be brought back into the house of the Most High, you got no excuse. Okay? Okay. So they don't have to engage in symbology. They might on occasion, but they don't have to. What's up, Radio Made Easy? Shalom, Evan, Badger, Dr. Trevor, everybody else in the chat. Good morning. So there's some rocks and seashells in the shape of 8647. The Trump administration officials and Republican politicians quickly interpreted the image as a threat to the 47th president. Several media outlets cited Merriam-Webster dictionary, which defines the term 86 as a slang term to throw out, to get rid of, or to kill. According to Newsweek, useless rag, the number is a mafia term for taking someone 8 miles out of town and putting them 6 feet under. This is the dumbest garbage I've heard in a long time. Quote, disgraced former FBI Director James Comey just called for the assassination of Trump, end quote, Noam wrote on X. She added that the Department of Homeland Security and Secret Service are, quote, investigating this threat and will respond appropriately, end quote. Fox News Digital cited a source in the Secret Service as saying they will send agents to investigate and interview the ex-FBI chief. Now, I have zero love for James Comey. I think he's just a rampant piece of trash. And probably one of the heads, had this current presidency actually had the balls that they said that they did when they were asking for your vote in November. Probably one of the heads that should be on a spike out front of the White House on the lawn, Mr. Comey. But this whole thing's retarded. 286 is to get rid of, not to kill. If it said 187, 47, maybe. And even if it did, let's say James Comey was walking down the beach and he found some seashells that said KILL 47. KILL 47. Let's say, and he took a picture of that. And he was like, oh, look what I found on my walk on the beach today. Does the First Amendment extend to social media? Didn't we just get under Trump within his first 10 days in office an executive order to restore freedom of speech to social media, which has done nothing, by the way, says the guy with 2 channel strikes, just waiting on the third, the sword of Damocles to fall on the Bear Independent channel, which is why you should be subscribed to the alternate channel, Blue Collar President. That's my alternate YouTube channel, as well as on Patreon, which is 30 cents a day and serves as an alternate platform as well. Bear, you should be on Rumble. I am. Rumble sucks. Been on Rumble for years. Shows you how good Rumble is. So didn't Trump sign an executive order restoring freedom of speech to social media? Is Instagram social media? You bet your tuchus it is. Does Comey have a God-given, constitutionally protected right to speak however he sees fit against potentially this presidency? Yeah, he does. Should he be calling for the assassination of the President of the United States of America? That's a matter of opinion. Can he? As long as he's not plotting the assassination of the United States of America. Oh, we now get into the realm of dangerous speech. Is dangerous speech protected by the First Amendment? Can you yell fire in a crowded room? You better if the place is on fire. The whole thing's stupid. The whole thing is stupid. My semi-professional opinion on this. JB's Garage, thanks for the super chat. Trevin said, Comey is a devotee of Hasatan. Pray for his short-timer status. If I'm being perfectly frank, I've got far more pertinent things to pray for, and they're all devotees of Hasatan. All of them. How do you think they rise to the level of authority that they have in worldly governmental systems? We fight not against flesh and blood, but against nations and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. They occupy a high place. Spiritual wickedness is baked in. Oh, even for 45, 47? Lesser of two evils? Sure. I like him way better than I like Kamala or Biden. Comma, dude sure talked a huge game in November, and here we are now, and I haven't seen 3% of what we were promised in November, which means politics as usual. And here's the problem. The MAGA crowd, those that want to believe, the MAGA crowd will eviscerate you for attacking their messiah, Donald J. Trump. And he is but a man. He is but a man. And I want that man to do well because I want this country to do well because I live here. And more importantly, my children live here. But you have to be able to call a spade a spade. If you can't, you're now policing my speech and everybody else's speech. And if we can't call out the BS when we see it, what's the likelihood that we remediate the BS? Very low. The first step in solving a problem is identifying the problem, admitting you have a problem. Swivelhead, thanks for the super chat. Drones, spy Baroon, Eastern files, JFK files, censoring people who post against him, and extremely important for many, a 10% interest cap on credit cards. Trump is failing the U.S. We were bamboozled. Yeah, politics. We were promised a bill of goods, sold a bill of goods that we did not receive. In the business world, there's civil liability for this and what is called theft by deception. Swivelhead, bless you. Natural route and grace and power of God. Father Yah be with Swivelhead and restore him to full health. In Yeshua's name, amen. By the way, I do appreciate the super chat, but I'd like to clarify, you cannot buy prayers from me for the remainder of the chat. It's just Swivelhead's been here a long time, and yes, we're tracking on your status, bro. So, shall we shift gears a little bit? Sure, let's shift gears. Anyway, the opinion is, Cash Patel said the Bureau. Remember Cash? Little Cashy Cash on day one. I'm going to turn the FBI headquarters into a museum. Thanks for the super chat. ALPC, Alpaca. You're Alpaca now. I don't recognize your name, but I'm glad you're here. $20 Canadian. Appreciate that. It's like $4 US, I think. Just giving you a hard time. Remember Cash Patel? Cash Patel was going to turn the FBI headquarters into a museum on day one. How many from these assholes do we hear on day one? Yeah. We meant on day 1001. Our bad. Cash Patel said, the Bureau will, quote, provide all necessary support, end quote, to the Secret Service. And, you're right. And we got Bongino, too, right? Remember, Bongino is going to come there, and him and Cash are going to really shake things up, man. No, they're not. No, they're not shaking anything up. So, yeah, Comey says Trump should be assassinated, except he didn't say that. He took a picture of some seashells on a beach of 4 numbers, 8647. And the idea that they have to tell you what they're going to do is retarded. No, they do not. That's speed, surprise, violence of action. Why would they give up the element of surprise? It's arguably the most important element. They wouldn't. They don't. But see, there's a whole bunch of grifters, and have been for a hot minute, on the internet 1.0, internet 2.0, certainly now internet 3.0, social media, that have built their entire platform around weaving together a narrative by connecting disconnected data points to make a story that sounds really interesting to the viewer. And if you say anything with enough authority, people will believe you. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because as more and more news comes out, you then get to flesh out your narrative with the stories or the snippets that support. This is basically doctrines and dogmas, but for news instead of the Bible. Okay. You get to pick and choose the data points that support the narrative that you've crafted that makes you look like a genius. Oh, you said that was going to happen and then it did, rather than just like undeniable fact. Like it's a fact that 90 days ago I said Pam Bondi sucks. That's a fact. It's a fact that we still don't have the Epstein files. It's a fact that they botched the release of the Epstein files by having social media influencers come to the White House and giving them binders for what phase one, I believe they called it. And what was in those binders was material that had already been released years ago, to the point that it's contained in reference material books like Traffic King about Jeffrey Epstein. All the data that was in those binders is already out, has been out. That's a fact, right? So facts are different than narratives and data points. Shall we shift gears? Yes, we shall. Bonus intel sent into intel@bearindependent.com. Where does it go? Intel@bearindependent.com. Intel@bearindependent.com. Pain medicine shortage. My discs are shot, and I think we read this one already. We'll read it again. This was in last week's, but we'll read it again. My discs are shot, and I recently lost my right leg to a shooting incident. I see a pain management specialist once a month. I'm on morphine 15, 6 times a day as needed. It's gotten to the point that my wife has to call around to the local pharmacies before I go into the pain management appointments to find out which pharmacy can fill my prescription. Walmart is on back order, as is a few other pharmacies. So, yeah, prescription. Where do the precursors for prescription medications come from? Predominantly from China. Where else? Southeast Asia and India. Has India been involved in some stuff lately? Yeah, India, Pakistan. Kind of a big deal. Except it's not a big deal anymore. They've extended their peace agreement and, blah, blah, blah. And they have, this is another one of those things like the Kashmir region, the, what do they call it? Line of control, border region between India and Pakistan. They've not gotten along, I think, since the 1970s, longer than I've been alive. I'd be really surprised if they begin getting along now. And then China, we have 145% tariffs, no 245%, no back down to 145, no back down to 10%. But wait a minute, because you guys are smuggling, or no, it's 20%. But then also you guys are smuggling Venezuelan oil is being bought by China, and there's an automatic 25% tariff on anybody who's using Venezuelan oil. But it's not actually Venezuelan oil, because what they're doing is they're loading up Chinese tankers in Venezuela with oil, and then they're going to a different country, swapping the paperwork on the load. Oh no, it's Brazilian oil. And then they're shipping that air quote Brazilian oil on Chinese tankers from Brazil back to China. So is it 20? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 45? We don't know. Nobody knows. It changes by the day. A little word on unequal weights and measures. Unequal weights and measures are an abomination to the Most High. Just throwing that out there. So nobody knows what the actual tariff rate is today. I think even the presidency doesn't actually know what the tariff rate is today, this very moment on China. And it will change again tomorrow, regardless of what has or has not been negotiated between Trump and Xi, because of things like shipments of Venezuelan oil. But the chemical precursors for prescription drugs, most of which, the vast majority of which, are oil derivatives. It's chemistry. It's nerds in lab coats with microscopes and pocket protectors that take oil that comes out of the ground and they synthesize that in something that's akin chemically to plastics and they powder it up, they put it in a pill, and those precursors come over here, and then, big pharma, Pfizer and Moderna and blah, blah, blah. They, Bayer, they take these. Bayer, interesting. And all the AstraZeneca, A Road to Death. Have you seen that? Um, all these companies have really interesting backgrounds, especially if you look at like kind of immediately following post World War II. There was an influx of certain individuals from a certain country that had a certain political affiliation that were relocated through a certain Project Paperclip here in the United States of America, where they then became embedded in certain companies and organizations here in the United States of America, including no such, not a space agency and no such agency, and the company, and all kinds of super interesting things. And then you got a Nazi death cult that's doing chemistry with Chinese oil chemical precursors prescribed to you for your chemical imbalance. That's probably because you eat garbage food and don't move your body and don't go outside and stand in the sunshine. But it's fine. So, wow, that sounds really crunchy, Bear. No, it's just a fact. It's just a fact. Like, my blood is half tetanus shot because see this hand right here? Because the majority of my life I've worked with these, okay, outside in the sun and the rain and the snow and the ice and the heat and the hail and the humidity and the wind and whatever we got today, it is what it is. But now we have factory farmed human beings that grow up in boxes with artificial light, eating artificial food, taking artificial medications, consuming artificial information with artificial doctrines and dogmas of men, with an artificial relationship, with an artificial God. And they're like, I don't know why I feel like shit. I could probably point out a couple of areas where you could improve. Excuse my language. I am trying to watch my language. The most overlooked gift of the spirit is self-control, isn't it? I'm really trying. I'm really trying. So our chemical precursors for our air quote medications predominantly come out of China. Something to pay attention to. Potty mouth. I know, Ryan. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Just turn the captions on. Next, I work at a Japanese auto manufacturing facility, a very large one. I wonder if what you're talking about is in Frisco, Texas for Toyota. Don't know that, but that's interesting. We produce items for a number of manufacturers. One of the largest is Ford. We've been told this week that due to the new tariffs that certain parts are not obtainable. So Ford has cut the orders from our facility down to 1,000 per week when it was closer to 3,000. With that being said, everyone just got all overtime cut. This comes only weeks after shutting down the entire weekend and overnight shifts as well, and cutting the weekend days down to 8 hours instead of 10 hours. Just wanted to do my part in letting you guys know that the ripple effects for the Chinese tariffs are starting to be seen. I just hope everyone is preparing for this ride we're about to take as Americans. Hey, get what you can get. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. You guys ever heard of that one? Build a better bird, says Trevin. Most of my life, I was a blue oval guy. Most of my life, I built my first company with a 1987 Ford Ranger. It was my first truck that, bless you, brother Whoopi, that some absolute psychopath took the rear end out of an F-350 and smashed it underneath the back end of this little Ford Ranger, 2.3 liter 4-cylinder 5-speed. And so I had 1-ton springs, rear differential, and 8-lug tires on the back, 8-lug wheels on the back, and then 5-lug wheels on the front little and super raked, right? The back end was all the way up in the air. Bought that for $500, and with that little tiny 4-cylinder and that big rear end, top speed was about 50 miles an hour. But it was a good, strong little truck, right? And that was my first truck. And then I got an F-250 with a Ford 351 Windsor in it. 3-speed automatic, no overdrive, 4x4. Standard cab, 8-foot bed, snowplow. And I had Ford F800s. Man, bought those from the Department of Transportation. What was the name of that town? There's a town, Port Jervis. Port Jervis. They used to have all like New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania DOT trucks would be collected at this one dealer in Port Jervis. And you could go over there, and if you had a stack of cash, you could leave with trucks. Lots of body rust and some mechanical issues, but if you were good with Bondo and Rust-Oleum, you had a truck. Freaking Port Jervis. Mad Kelt knows what's up. Yep. So I had Ford F800s, I had a little F600, 250s, 350s, a couple of Rangers. Had what year was that? A 2001 Ranger, 7RMC squared. I bought it from my buddy's dad, who was a reverend. And that was the Rowdy Reverend Randall Rotman's Resurrected Ranger Mobile Command Center. That's right. It's my nice little Ranger. Anyway, I used to be a blue oval guy. And here recently, I was leasing a 2024 Ford F-250. And that truck sucks. Just sucks. I've got this coffee cup weighs more than that 3/4 ton pickup truck did. Had no traction. The whole thing's aluminum. Like, you get a tree branch hanging out in the road and you accidentally brush the tree branch, you've totaled the truck. Ford F700 460 big block. The 460 is what I had in one of the F800s. I had another one that had diesel engine in it. I think it was it an international motor? I had a bunch of internationals too. 1600s, 1700s internationals, the old square body ones with the DT 466 motors in them. Anyway, I digress. This is back when I was doing timber and tree work back in the day. It's part of why Grindstone works. Me, trucks, and chainsaws, we go way back. What's up, Sandring? What's going on? So I'm unimpressed by these new Ford trucks. Me personally, your mileage may vary, but having driven around in one for, I don't know, a quarter, maybe half a year, I was like, absolutely not. So I've got a Chevy 1-ton now, and I know people will, but the Ford has a solid axle and the Chevy has a floating axle on the front end. Cool. Awesome. I've also got a 2009 GMC, all, none of the bells and whistles, but strong AF truck parked right there in the driveway. That's like my work truck. You know what I mean? So I guess let's go back to over here. The Intel. Get what you need if you need Ford parts, I guess, is the moral of the story there. Tuesday, let's see. This was a few days ago. Approximately 7 p.m. Eastern, I was notified by a company-wide field operations message that 2 mainline fiber cables had been cut in just a few hours apart in North Carolina. This resulted in catastrophic failure of almost the entire state's internet service for Brightspeed, but also other smaller internet service providers that rent Brightspeed cables. These fibers fed close to 40,000 DSL customers, 4,000 fiber customers, multiple CBRAs, over 29 SS7 offices, no current customer count on these, 30 TMX cell towers, which after seconds cut, these towers went down hard. multiple North Carolina state government services. Additionally, TSC calls it bogged down everything down for the entire Eastern and Midwest system. These cuts were located near Clinton and Smithfield, North Carolina. Company-wide email states the investigation is ongoing. This is unusual because normally with a major fiber cut, investigation isn't even mentioned. So two cables cut at approximately the same time and relatively near to one another. Yeah, that's an investigation. Furthermore, this is highly unusual because the second cut was a redundancy line for the first cut. Oh, so you got a mole. Somebody's in your system. Well, it's certainly possible that both these main lines were cut hours apart accidentally. The probability of that is tiny, especially when considering the second was redundancy for the cell towers. Listen to Bear. Everyone get a kit, get a Jace case. You may not have the ability to call in an emergency. This outage didn't take many hands to make happen, whether accidental or intentional. People affected in North Carolina wouldn't be able to call 911, wouldn't be able to use a landline, wouldn't be able to use cell phones in the affected tower range. Worth noting, my parents live in North Carolina. Their Starlink service was unaffected by this outage. I am not convinced that I love Elon Musk, but I do like some of the things that he does, and Starlink is one of the things that has served us well in the field with Grindstone. That being said, it is very weird to see those Starlink satellites going across the night sky. Not a fan. This was an intentional attack on infrastructure. 99 point something percent certain. What most people don't realize, because they're unfamiliar, unacquainted with it, is how fragile the system is. And I know many of y'all have heard me harping on this. I've been doing this for 7 years. I say these things because they're true and because I care about you. I know a thing or two about fiber. The patent for the connector that is used to splice fiber optic cables, my father is named on because he helped develop it. The first one ever was made by a jeweler in New York City, while my dad worked for Bell Atlantic, precursor to Verizon, out of the Valhalla, New York engineering office. And the precision that was required to align two pieces of glass 1/10 the diameter of a human hair, they didn't have the machine tools at the time to produce reliably. Injection molding, additive manufacturing wasn't cutting it. And so my dad went to a jeweler in New York City and said, I need you to make this. And the guy did. And that was where the splicing of fiber optic cable originated at. So when I was growing up, we literally had in the barn, in the pole barn, a John Deere 850 dozer with an 11-foot Tico vibratory plow and a fair leads run over the top of it and a reel carrier on the front for laying fiber optic cable in the 80s, when everybody was saying that's Star Wars stuff. That's Buck Rogers, man. Nobody's got, nope. No, we got all the bandwidth we need on copper. So I've been around fiber for a hot minute. And then all of the wind turbine systems that I have installed have used fiber for communications, because you can put fiber in the same part of the trench as your power lines, because the fiber is an optical cable, deals with light. It's not an electrical communications cable. It's not copper wire sending electrical signals, meaning that the EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies coming off of the home run cables, the electrical circuit from the wind turbines, do not affect the optical cable when they're in the same trench. And I have much greater bandwidth using an optical cable than I do using a copper cable for communications. So I don't know how many thousands of miles of fiber I've put in, but it's a lot. And it's so freaking fragile. You, me, and a backhoe can destroy the fiber network. Now, 80% of the fiber in the United States is owned by AT&T. All the trunks. There was a guy in Maryland, 8 years ago, on a backhoe of questionable citizenship, who was digging and did not call 811 before he dug. And he dug up what he thought was a root. And that root was a trunk cable that ran from Maine to Texas, fiber optic cable. And it took the entire eastern seaboard, all the way from Maine down to the Florida Keys, around the Gulf of America, which at the time was named the Gulf of Mexico, into Houston, Texas, and west from Houston, Texas, across central and north central Texas, completely out of service. The FBI got involved because the scale and scope of the attack on infrastructure was so great that surely this had to be domestic terrorism. Nope, it was Jose on a backhoe. Okay? Jose on a backhoe. Which sounds like a great name, like, uh, mi nombre es Bear. ¿Y tú? Oh, Jose on a backhoe. Okay. Um, Jose on a backhoe took 100 million Americans offline. I've told you that the greatest threat to the electrical grid is rust. Now, China's a factor for sure. Russians are a factor. The 4,000 known terror cells in the United States of America are a factor. But the greatest threat to the American electrical grid is rust. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have what you need for when the lights go out and don't come back on, may the Lord be with you. That's what I'm saying. It's, yeah. I've lived for a few years right outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, on a 22-acre homestead. We are within feeling distance of the artillery range. First moving out here, it took some getting used to, hearing howitzers going off and bombs dropping every few days, but now it's normal life. You get accustomed to certain sounds and you begin to not even notice them anymore. A buddy actually was able to communicate with me in signal we made from Morse code while training. Long burst versus short burst and all. That's awesome. That being said, aircraft are always over my home. We are in the flight line. We saw the new Sky Warden when it was being used for training. Last night, there was a different ordinance about 12:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. that I would have never heard if not for the baby. He was restless, so I sat in my chair with YouTube on the TV while he dozed. It sounded like something from the Sci-Fi Channel, like metal warping as the blast hit. Now, I'm not military, but my neighbor was, and he doesn't sleep at night, so I texted him. He spent 20 years in doing the silent professional work for our country, so I texted him asking for his thoughts. He said maybe a ground to air or a hellfire, but he was positive in the years he lived here he'd never heard one of those kinds of laser blast noises. He's only 42, so not an old guy by any means. Further backing up the strangeness of the last few days out here, we are both sure we saw a B-1 this morning. Not something that usually flies in these parts. We could be wrong, and I like to think that I am, but a bone around here is a change. I spoke a B1 around here is a change. Bone. That's interesting. Need a hyphen next time. I spoke with some others this morning, and there's a definite uptick in training. Helos all the way out of Aberdeen the last few nights. Maybe it's just scheduled training. Maybe it's the Army getting their crap stompers on for something. Intel is intel, and I hope this adds a brushstroke to the larger picture. How Muy interesante, Jose Anabaco. Thank you. If you want your intel read to the Bear Nation, it's intel at bearindependent.com. Intel at bearindependent.com. Intel at bearindependent.com. So, that's the show. You guys know the drill. RefugeMedical.com. If you're not signed up for the email blasts at Refuge, you're missing out on email exclusive deals with deep savings. Everything right now, kits and buckets, is buy one, get one 30% off, which is like a big deal of greater or lesser value. So be sure to check that out. We have some awesome training opportunities coming up. One is with Evan from Radio Made Easy. It's coming up in July, end of July at, I think it's July 20th, 29th, but check the website, the training tab, refugemedical.com. The Zero to Hero Radio Made Easy class. And if you have a radio but don't know how to use it, or you don't have a radio at all. June, that's what I said. It's June 29th and 30th. Thank you, William. It's June 29th and 30th. If you have a radio but don't know how to use it, or don't have a radio at all, this is the class for you. It's a 2-day class. Lunch is provided, and the radio is provided. You will leave with a radio that you have programmed. And it's not just death by PowerPoint. It's one of the, we learn experientially, right? It's one of the things I love about this class is you will be sent on missions with your radio. Leave the refuge building. Go do stuff. Okay, now go do stuff as a team. Actually talk to each other. And that's phenomenal. That's the way to train. So you get the reps and sets to actually know how to use it, not I think I know how to use it. We just spoke of communications going down, grid going down. If you have one of these, but you don't know how to use it, please come to this class. Okay. And I understand. It's an investment of not just money, but more importantly, time. Okay. But it's an investment. Skills weigh nothing and go with you everywhere. Once you have this capability, you got it. Okay. Check on to the next thing. And the ability to communicate reliably without grid power is something that most preppers think they know, but they don't actually know. And I know this because we've deployed Grindstone to disaster affected areas 50 times. There's no power, there's no commo, there's no sewer, there's no water, there's none of that. Infrastructure is destroyed. There's no refrigeration. There's no place to sleep. There's no way to talk to each other. And your vibe attracts your tribe. So we have a lot of people like me, like us in the chat, who show up to volunteer their time with Grindstone, which is awesome. And on occasion, we run into other preparedness-minded individuals when we're doing this thing. And most of them, their radio skills, if they exist at all, are terrible. If they have any radio skills at all, they're terrible. And this is me saying this. I'm not the radio guy. And if not the radio guy has infinity more radio skills than you do, you don't have radio skills. Okay. So that's what this class has been designed to achieve for you, is to give you the technical prowess, the proficiency, the skill set, and the automaticity to be able to take that radio, make commo with it when you need it. And yes, that's super useful in an emergency. It's also super useful every other day of the week, especially if you live on a piece of land. You need to talk from here to the barn, or there's somebody out on the back 40 working the fence line or whatever. It's just radio stuff. Beartron, been working on my radio skills since Night Responder 001. That's a good word. 100%, bro. And also, good morning, Beartron. It's a super important skill set that most people check the box. They go, I have a radio, I got it. No, you don't. It's like saying I have a rifle, got it. No, you don't. Possession does not equate to proficiency. So check out the Zero to Hero radio class. It's on the training tab at refugemedical.com. We also have a class coming up with Jason at Kentucky Sustainable Living. That class is like 60% off. I'll be teaching that. That's my only class on the road this year, and that is a trauma medicine class. So don't be an ass. Come to class. We have Train the Trainer this weekend, Sunday, Monday. That class, there is one seat left, I think. It may have sold already. I'm super encouraged by how quickly that class sold out. And so we will likely do another one this fall for everyone who's like, I want to come to Train to Trainer, but I can't. I don't know. I can't make it this time. Didn't have enough notice, yada, yada. I get it. So I'm looking at class dates. We are also, with Refuge, leaning heavily in the direction of education and instruction. I was on the phone with some gentlemen you may have heard of yesterday. Master Sergeant Carl Erickson, tactical rifleman, and Emery Morgenstern, his buddy, my buddy, about coordinating on some classes this summer and fall for the full TACMED experience. And so stay tuned for class dates on that. And then I've been instructed by my team not to say the word wilderness. So I won't say the word wilderness. But if I was to say the word wilderness, I would say the word wilderness August 31st through September 2nd. So if that's something that interests you, just mark the dates off on your calendar, but definitely don't say the word wilderness. In the meanwhile, for everything else you need, if you're having a day out on the lake and you need a first aid kit, or just driving around in your semi truck and you need a first aid kit, refugemedical.com. If you use promo code BearNation, you'll get free shipping. And right now there's BOGO, buy one, get one 30% off. And that's a very rare opportunity. So Grindstone Ministries is fundraising for a shower and potty trailer. So, helps keep us hygienic out there in the field. And if that's something you would like to donate towards, if the spirit moves you, feel free to visit grindstoneministries.com. There's links in the description on all this stuff. What's up, Mark Chase? And then Caleb House, Caleb with the K, our counter-trafficking ministry. Buildings are continuing to get built. Bad guys are continuing to get rolled up. Good guys are continuing to get rescued. Somebody asked early on, have you seen the Tim Tebow interview with Sean Ryan yet? And no, I haven't seen it yet. We've been a little busy actually doing the things. That being said, I like Tim. Jury's out on Sean for me personally, but I like Tim. And I know the people that Tim works with on the counter-trafficking side, and they are very good people. So, endorsement of what they have going on, yes. They are one of the few groups that are actually doing things. So, who are they? That's their business. I don't really want you to know who they are. And therefore, I won't tell you who they are, but I can tell you we know them, and they are good people. We trust them, and they're actually doing the things, unlike the vast majority of air quote counter-trafficking operations in the United States of America, which are just a bunch of grifts to get you to donate so that somebody can make a Instagram post and say, look, we're helping. And they're actually not. And I'll say this. If a movie has ever been made about your counter-trafficking organization, your counter-trafficking organization is not a counter-trafficking organization. Certainly not worth supporting. Bear, did you see the Sound of Freedom movie? No. Why not? Because I know it's bullshit. And everybody else in the industry knows it's bullshit too. but good job giving them $1 billion so they could do nothing except fight legal battles. Uh, yeah, yeah. Let your fingers do some walking on the search engines there, but those are not reputable people. So, but Tim Tebow and the people he works with are reputable people. They are good people. So they get the Bear endorsement. What else? Patreon. Link is in the description. We had a really good live stream Wednesday night on Patreon. So if you haven't caught that, go catch up on that. The question that began the live stream was essentially, where do you think we are on the end times timeline? And I went on a 35, 40-minute explainer to that. And that's on the Patreon Wednesday night live stream. In addition to all the other things that we've talked about on Patreon this week, it's 30 cents a day. It is the economic engine of the Bear Nation. My ministries do not pay me, nor do I want them to, because I don't want to make a dime off of doing the Lord's work. Refuge Medical, I don't draw a salary from Refuge Medical. YouTube costs me more to be on YouTube than we earn from YouTube, which means that there's Patreon. When I say Patreon is the economic engine of the Bear Nation, I mean it. It's facts. So, yeah. Midwestern Preparedness Festival, had a great time out there. Thank you to Kyle and Patrick and Bobby. Really appreciate you guys. Put on an excellent event. Thanks for having us out. It was an honor to be able to baptize while we were there. And shout out to our friends. They're not our friends. Who felt the need to try and bump us. That was cute. You guys are super cute. Super duper cute. Oh, keep hurting children and I will keep hunting you. Yeah. So, in any event, that's the show for today. Yeah, and then lots of commentary on my haircut. There's two reasons biblically why a man of Elohim would shave. One is to his shame. I am not shamed. The other is to go to war. I'm not shamed. What does that leave? I love y'all. I will see you when I see you. I hope you guys have a phenomenal day of rest. I pray the Father just pours his blessings out on y'all. Man, that we could just experience his peace and his shalom this day. That we would be brave and bold in our faith, not cowards. There are no cowards in the kingdom. Read the end of Revelation, but outside the city are the cowards. And our Father is a warrior, Exodus 15, verse 3, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. And sin goes outside the camp. We're not to tolerate it. Light has no union with darkness. And the light shines into the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. So, Father, let us not tolerate anything that you would not tolerate. And Father, if there's anything in me or in us that is not of you, I rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to flee. Father Yahweh, give us strength to be your hands and feet. Fill us up with your Ruach HaKodesh for wisdom and discernment, for meekness, for giftings and talents and delights. that we might be able to serve you here on this plane. Father Yah, thank you for making a way for us to come home again by the blood of Messiah. Thank you for redeeming the worst of us, the least of these, the chief amongst sinners. Thank you for relentlessly pursuing us, that we would come into union with you again. Father, let us be who you made us to be, not who the world made us to be. Father Yahuwah, keep us on your most blessed path for us. Do not let us stray, but continue to walk with us. Make our enemies a footstool. Let no weapon formed against us prosper. And put a hedge around all these beautiful people today. Father, hear the stirring of their hearts as your spirit flows through them, and minister to them today. Give them this day their daily bread. And please make your face to shine upon us. Father Yah, we love you. We thank you for all of this. In Yeshua's name, Amen. If your sword is not sharp, sharpen it.